How's it going, everybody? Psychedelic here. You guys recognize that little guitar intro to a psychedelic tune? If you do, you're my new best friend. Figured I'd do that for a little intro because pretty much all the music here is very heavily copyrighted material and just didn't want to get banned off YouTube again. I haven't been banned yet, but you know, it's in the works. So welcome back, everybody. The first find I'm going to share is something I picked up online, and then the remainder is all the stuff I found in Lincoln last week. So yeah, I just kind of decided to take a trip because I had to get out of the house. You know, I'm just tired of staying in all the time. You know, of course we have to now, but especially in my area. But had to make the trip, and just out of, you know, getting my sanity back, and just haven't really been to the shop in probably a month or so. So yeah, let's dive in. So with this first one, this is one I picked up last week as well. Got really lucky on the bid on this one for like 12 bucks. And typically even reissues you don't see, you know, they're always over 20 bucks. I picked up on CQ by The Outsiders. Definitely need a lot more material like this in my collection, you know. Stuff from Europe I'm really lacking, and hopefully this is gonna fill some of that void, you know, picking stuff up like this. But got kind of lucky on this one too, because there was a little bit of competition. But yeah, this is a Nederbeat classic, pretty well known, I would say. This is their second and last album, probably their magnum opus for sure. This is a reissue that came out in 2001 on the Pseudonym label. And it's also kind of known for the vocalist Wally Tax, who apparently Kurt Cobain was a big fan of, and he tried locating him down but never succeeded. At least that's what I read online. I wasn't aware of that. But yeah, CQ. This album's really ahead of its time in a lot of ways. Coming out in 1968, and it was originally released on the Polydor label, and it only had like 1,000 copies initially, so it's a pretty scarce item these days. And I think this reissue is also 1,000 copies too. Yeah, so there's kind of like a semi-concept running throughout the whole album, which I haven't really caught on to yet, but nonetheless, the music backing this all up is just really catches your ears, catches your attention, you know. I got tracks like Doctor, which kind of sounds like a neo-psych band. It sounds like something that could have been recorded last week. It's that fresh sounding. Some crazy heavy riffage going throughout that track. It's probably my favorite off here. Followed by The Man on the Dune, another killer up-tempo garage rocker. It's just insane for its time. Daddy Died on Saturday. I would say the meat of the album is on side one, you know, the strongest material, but some of the tracks are very inconsistent with each other on their own, or as a whole I should say, but you know, standing out alone, they work pretty well. And you know, like the title track, which is kind of like this really freaky, it's got a lot of freak out moments throughout, and the second and third track are very much in that realm. But yeah, there's really no weak moments on here, to be honest. And yeah, based out of the Amsterdam area, and just one of the best bands to come from, you know, the Netherlands, really. So finally picked up on this. The sound quality is just superb. It's kind of on this custom label, kind of using the cover art as the label. And what else can I say about this? You know, I gotta kind of dive into this to know the concept better, but I've known this album for quite a while. It's just never really been high on the want list, but very happy to finally obtain it, so it is here to stay. Check out the track Doctor. I mean, It even sounds reminiscent of bands like the OCs and King Gizzard. It's a wild mess in a good way. So crazy stuff. So yeah, on to these 4 finds that I found in Lincoln at only one store. I went to Lincoln Vintage Vinyl, but then I also stopped at Goodwill and didn't find anything there. But yeah, these are a couple, I would say 3 nice cheapies, and then one that was just kind of spur of the moment, out of the blue. Me and a friend on Facebook were talking about this band, kind of talking about their forgotten gems, if there were any, by this band, and this is one that's always gotten brought up to the table, and finally picked up on a copy, and I can't praise this album enough. So I picked up on some Paul Revere and the Raiders albums, and just looking at the cover, you know, it just kind of looks more like a clean-cut boy band, you know. But really, they were much more than that, honestly. And when you listen to this album, this is arguably their best psychedelic effort for sure. Album's called Something Happening, and this came out in 1968. And this is almost just before they dropped their Paul Revere and just went being called the Raiders. And pretty much all throughout, this is a very highly enjoyable psychedelic pop mixed with, you know, I would say there's maybe a couple tracks that are very run-of-the-mill Paul Revere and Raiders-like tracks, but for the most part, they take initiative of the studio effects within, and they do like all these Leslie speaker vocal effects and plenty of dashes of fuzz guitar throughout, and really catchy pop hooks, especially on tracks like Free. Got tracks like Communication, would just kind of jam out for a while. You know, they got some like 5-minute tracks on here. Burn Like a Candle is another big highlight. Then they released one as a single, Observation from Flight 285. It's kind of like this really mellow, spaced out trip. Really good for a Raiders album. And you can find this probably for $10 all day. Of course, I flipped through this through the shop, but I just finally picked up on this because I knew of its reputation. I just wanted to wait and find a clean copy, and this one certainly is. It's on the Columbia label there. I wonder what the mono sounds like, because it's got a very wide range of, you know, I love albums that have very vast stereophonic effects to them, and this is definitely a cool album in stereo, I would say. So what else was I going to say about this one? So if you guys enjoy bands like the albums that came to mind for me, or bands that did, are groups like the Crying Shames with their album A Scratch in the Sky and Synthesis. This is very much in that same world, you know, being on the Columbia label. And you know, if you guys know those albums, you know, they're basically pop albums, but they have a lot of interesting you know, things going for them besides just straightforward pop music. And this is definitely my favorite Raiders album for sure. The best one I've heard so far. So can't go wrong there. And then this is one that I was not familiar with, but a good friend of mine hit me to this one. And so this is, you know, the first time I ever listened to this album when I picked it up. I never even gave it a listen online. And I've only heard this a couple times, and I gotta be honest, I was kind of underwhelmed. This is Raiders Collage. This is their first album under the name Raiders. And then I think the next album is Indian Reservation. I don't think this one sparked any hits. I think this was kind of a flop for them. A lot of people don't seem to really recognize this album too often when it pops up. A lot of people go, oh, I've never seen that one. Including me. You know, I've never seen this one even in my searches. So this one came out in 1970, and you know, you can definitely tell these guys want to kind of fade away from that, you know, cute, clean-cut kind of scene that they were a part of, you know. And I don't know, it's a lot of mixed bag feelings on this one as of right now. I'll definitely give it a re-listen, but I was a little underwhelmed by this one. It's got a lot of hard rock elements wanting to push forward, but they don't quite deliver for me. But there are some good standout tracks. Wednesday's Child is kind of like this folk tune, really nice. And I would say the last two tracks on side one, Dr. Fine and Just 17, are more of the couple of the other heavier cuts. You know, there's just, I don't know. I don't know what it was that kind of irritated me. It might have been just the vocalist or the horns that they used in the background. It just kind of has this really kind of power poppy, really commercial-like appeal to it that just did not interest me. But I'll give it another spin before my final analysis on this. But I have heard from Raiders fans that they do like this album though, and consider it kind of their forgotten gem. As for me, I still prefer something happening. So yeah, it just kind of left me feeling kind of dry on that one. So we'll see what happens with that one. I might part with it down the road, as well as this one. Now, there's probably fans out there of this band, you know, watching my video now, and that's all cool, but I've never really been heavy on this band. I always liked their previous band name, the Ivies, but I picked up Badfinger's first album, Magic Christian Music, and this is their debut on Apple Records. And the reason I picked this up, because it does have some of my favorite tracks by them, Beautiful and Blue, and of course Maybe Tomorrow, which they did the song under the Ivies. And I think some of these tracks were actually retakes of half the tracks that were on the Ivies album, which was only, I believe, an Italy and UK release, if I'm not mistaken. It was only released in Europe, 1969, and has some of their best tracks on that LP as well. But it's up in the 300 plus range anymore. But I figured I'd go the cheap route and just pick this up. Unfortunately, it doesn't have one of my other favorite tracks by them, which was featured on the UK release, Angelique. It's really floaty, pop psych with harpsichord. But my two favorite tracks, I already mentioned them. But it features their hit Come and Get It, which was written by Paul McCartney. Nice clean copy. I saw this for cheap in the shop and figured, you know, might as well own it for those two tracks that I really enjoy. At least the most. As far as the rest of it, it's pretty good for what it is. This is the first album I ever owned by Badfinger, but I don't know. They're really known for their power pop movements, and for me, I've just never really dove into that world yet. You know, the world of Big Star and, you know, Raspberries, all those kind of groups. Of course, I've listened to them, but they never really hooked me in like Psychedelia does, you know. So I'm just kind of, this is one I'm also going to re-listen to as well before I may decide to part with it. We'll see. But yeah, Badfinger, they're a great group, but unfortunately had a very heartbreaking story. If you guys, I'm sure you guys are aware of the story later on with you know, rights to their music, and ultimately led to a couple of their deaths. So yeah, it's a really heartbreaking story. But on to another album. So this is the last one of the bunch, and then this is one of those albums that, you know, kind of got me into a lot of the soul and funk that my college buddy introduced me to. I really discovered a lot of that stuff during college when, you know, I was also trying to, you know, learn a little more about garage rock and psych. I didn't really have the collection I do now at the time, but that was even before I started making videos. But, you know, he's very much into like instrumental hip hop, so he introduced me to a lot of funk and soul from, you know, this era. And so, of course, I got introduced to Isaac Hayes, being one of the artists, and kind of fell in love with it at the time. And this is one that, you know, I wasn't really seeking, you know, that greatly, but whenever I would come across it for cheap, I said to myself, I'll pick it up. So I decided to pick the reissue of this up. This is Isaac Hayes, Hot Buttered Soul. Might come as a surprise to some of you guys, but yeah, I love some music other than just psychedelia, even though I don't often share it on this channel, but some of it's kind of cringeworthy and don't feel like really sharing it with you, but I really shouldn't feel that way because it's ultimately the music I'm into, and I shouldn't really be ashamed of that, like none of us should be. But Isaac Hayes, just one of those people that, legendary artist for being, kind of, embarking on his own journey, I guess you could say. Growing up with a lot of Southern soul artists, and then having, a lot of reputation behind the Stax label. With his debut, it flopped at the time, so he decided to have full music creativity and musical freedom to express what he wanted to lay out on record, and this is basically the result, and I love this. This is great. If you really want to get a taste of the record, he actually does an 18-minute version of By the Time I Get to Phoenix, which opens with like it's got to be like 8 to 10 minute intro of just him kind of getting you soaked into the song, and kind of telling his own variation of the story. It's really cool. But I think the album opens up best on side 1. I think a lot of people agree with that. Walk On By. And then I'm not even going to try and pronounce the second title because we all know how my pronunciation of words are. That's one of my problems. Like when I do everything on the spot on my channel, it's just kind of like, I better not say that word. I don't want to embarrass myself, but yeah. The first 2 tracks on side 1, really funky and really mixed in with like, Isaac Hayes' very deep and leathery type of vocal delivery, mixed in with like strings and classical arrangements, but it's also got these really nice background singers and fuzz mixed in the bunch in this chaotic album. So yeah. It was also recorded in Detroit. Information on the back there. So other than that, I don't know the whole history behind this album, except that he was very passionate of expressing, his own variations of these popular pop tunes at the time. So yeah, super stoked to pick this up. Yeah, it's on the Stax reissue label. I think it was originally on the Enterprise label. So yeah, that about does it, and hope you guys enjoyed. I really did spend quite a bit at his store that day with all those records, and then I also bought those 2 posters, as you guys may notice in the background there. The Electric Prunes, and I'll probably get a close-up shot of it maybe at the end of this video. Electric Prunes, I'm not sure if that's an original poster from back in the day, but this one over here almost has to be. It's like a replica of the 13th floor elevators when they were playing in San Francisco at the Avalon Ballroom. And I think it said Moby Grape opened for that show as well, so pretty cool. I mean, I would love to have like an full-size poster of that, but that'll have to wait. Yeah, I'm kind of looking at a few posters and some tapestry I might hang up in the back sometime. We'll see. Just gotta kind of search and hunt down the right one, the right size, and everything else. So let's see. My next video might be the film review, but we're also getting near the end of the year, so that means I'll probably be doing my top 10 best finds of the year, and I'm very stoked for that video. That actually might be the next one coming up. So I do have them pretty much all ranked out, at this moment, but who knows, by the end of the year I might have another grail. You never know. There's actually another one coming. So yeah, take care, and let me know what you think of my finds, and we shall see you soon.